Hi, this is Eric Hutchinson. I'm the principal broker and owner of Hutchinson Realty, and this is video 10 of the Negotiating Your Next Home video series. I hope you'll watch the other videos in the series, but today we're talking about closings. This is a really fun topic because this is the day that the seller gets paid and the buyers get the keys to their house, hopefully. And agents get to see their client, whether it's the buyer or the seller, get what they want, move on to the next chapter in their life. And so it's a really exciting day. One of the things that we want to talk about though is when does closing actually happen? Is it when they sign the papers? Is it when the seller gets paid? Also, does it matter what day of the week that we pick for our closing? Also, what is a split closing? What is that? And does it matter whether we have one or not? So these are things that we're going to talk about. So let me turn over to page 10 of the Arkansas real estate contract. And up at the top, you can see the little orange arrow pointing to the first paragraph on the closing paragraph, item number 22 on the contract. Now, it basically defines what closing is right here in this first paragraph. It says that closing is when both parties sign the paperwork and when the seller gets paid. Now, this is a really important thing because sometimes when a buyer is getting a loan, the wire transfer of the money comes from the lender to the title company. And sometimes there's a little bit of a delay. And if it's late in the afternoon, sometimes that delay pushes over to the next day. And that can be a problem whenever the buyer's possession date, which we'll talk about in the next video, is the same day as closing. If the seller doesn't get paid, you're technically not closed. That's why most realtors recommend that you close on a Thursday. That way, if there is a delay, it's only until Friday and not until Monday. If you close on a Friday afternoon and the wiring transfer doesn't happen or there's a delay, it pushes it all the way till Monday. And if the buyer has furniture waiting on a moving truck, that could be a real problem. So keep in mind that whenever you're making an offer on a house, if you are a buyer, that you probably want to pick a Wednesday or Thursday or some other day of the week besides Friday, even though that may be working best for your work schedule, it could be a problem if the seller doesn't get paid at closing. So Thursday's usually a good day of the week to close. That's what I normally recommend. But if you're going to close, try to make sure that you've talked to your lender and that you close earlier in the day, usually before 3 o'clock, so there's not a delay in getting the seller paid. So the next paragraph down from the little orange arrow that you see up there on the left-hand corner of your screen, it basically says the buyer and seller have the right to choose their own title companies. Now, this used to never be an issue or a problem. Everybody always just closed with the same title company. But several years back, real estate companies started purchasing title companies. And a lot of time, real estate companies will recommend using their own title company. Most buyers and sellers, it's been my experience, don't really care which title company they use, or they don't understand the benefits of using one title company over another. So ask your realtor why they are recommending a certain title company. Does it give you a better pricing? Do you get an enhanced title policy instead of a standard title policy? And by the way, that's something that you should ask as well. There's a big difference between an enhanced title policy and a standard title policy. I always recommend getting the enhanced title policy because it covers a whole lot more than a standard title policy. But you have the choice to pick your title company, you as a buyer or the seller. Now, I will tell you that if you are negotiating a house and there are multiple offers on this property that you're trying to get, sometimes taking a stand on a title company is not where you want to take a stand on, or not where you want to argue with the seller about. So you may want to make your offer just very clean and just close with whoever the seller wants to close with. Sometimes the seller doesn't care and they'll close with the buyer. And then sometimes there's a split closing. A split closing just simply means that buyer and seller are closing with different title companies. It's not a huge deal, and sometimes there's a real benefit to the buyer or the seller with closing with a separate title company. But let me just tell you that there is a possibility of a delay in the seller getting paid. So take, for instance, the buyer, the funding happens midday or in the afternoon. It goes to the buyer's title company. The buyer's title company doesn't write a check. They wire the money to the seller's title company. And again, there could be a delay in the wire pushing the closing to the next day, or if it's on a Friday, the next Monday. So just be careful. Ask your realtor why they're recommending their title company and that there's a real benefit for you using a particular title company. Now, the next paragraph is bolded and it says this real estate contract serves as written closing instructions. That just means that the contract tells the title company what you want. Do you want the seller to pay for your closing costs? When the closing date is there a termite policy? Is there a survey? It basically serves as written closing instructions for the title company. The last paragraph is kind of lengthy, but it basically says that the buyer may want to do a thing called closing protection letter. That's an insurance policy that guarantees that if the title company was to run away with the buyer's money, that they would cover that. It's usually a $25 insurance policy. Some lenders require a closing protection letter, but if the title company is bonded and insured, there's not really any need for a closing protection letter. It also says that real estate agents are allowed to give away the details of the transaction to appraisers and to other people after the transaction has closed. So if you don't want that information given, like the seller paying for your closing costs or what you paid for it and those type of things, this basically says that the realtors have permission to give out that information after closing. Most people don't care, but if you do, you might want to put that in writing that you cannot have that disclosed. So those are the things that we're going to talk about. I hope this information has been valuable to you. Remember, the seller wants to close as soon as possible most of the time. So you might want to ask your realtor to reach out to the listing company if you're a buyer and find out if there's a particular time period that the seller wants to close or if there's a benefit to waiting longer for closing. Sometimes the seller has a preference. So always ask your realtor to contact the listing realtor involved in the transaction so you can see if there's a benefit to closing closer or further away. So hope this information's been good. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you'll watch the next one as we talk about possession date. Have a blessed day. You can always reach out to me at info@hutchrealty.com and I will talk to you soon.